game that the Giants, quite frankly, should be able to blow out the Cowboys. But games like this, you never know because, for one, the Cowboys still have a little bit of talent offensively. Two, the rookie showed quite a bit.
Well, like I said, he had 7 total touchdowns. He had a pass rating over 138. He does make good progressions. He can run out of the backfield too. He does add that dynamic. But again, that was the preseason. Mm-hmm. Let's see what he does in the regular season. And here's the scary thought. If anything happens to him, you got Mark Sanchez backing him up. That's not any better right there.
Brother, spare me, please.
I feel bad for these Cowboy fans. I hope they are providing barf bags for all that are in attendance because they will need one after watching if that comes to fruition. Now, but for me personally, I'm going with the Giants to win this game. That's my pick. Mm-hmm. First Sunday night game of the year, NBC, 8:30. You got the New England Patriots, sans Tom Brady for the first 4 games going up against the Cardinals in the desert with newly acquired defensive end Chandler Jones, formerly of the Patriots.
Really interesting matchup right here. 2 potential Super Bowl contenders who played in their respective conference championship games last year. This is the game where Jimmy Garoppolo is going to show whether he is an NFL caliber quarterback or not. And it's not like he's got little to work with here. He's got solid running backs to hand off to, a hodgepodge of receivers to give the ball to, and also Rob Gronkowski, who right now has become the number 1 target for the Patriots to throw to. And also, they're very, very underrated defensively. Almost nobody talks about the Patriot defense, in spite of the fact that they're very, very solid.
Matt Patricia is one of the best underrated coordinators who, in the last few years, has been always interviewed by teams for potential coaching vacancies, but has never been hired. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a time where Matt Patricia will be snatched by somebody, whether it's in the pros or in college. He's going to be a head coach at some point down the line, for sure. But you're asking his defense to do something without Rob Ninkovich, suspended and injured all at the same time.
Yep.
Not really good. Chandler Jones being traded from New England to Arizona. And what do you get? Jonathan Cooper, a guy with a foot injury, to be in your offensive line? That offensive line is a complete and utter mess for New England. It doesn't matter whether it's Tom Brady or Garoppolo under center. When you have a messy offensive line, that doesn't help one bit. Mm-hmm. And you don't have Deion Lewis. And who knows if Elman will be at 100%. As well as Gronk and everybody else. I don't see New England, even with Gronkowski, I still don't think New England's going to win this game. I'm going with the Cardinals, but please, Carson Palmer, do not play this game like you did in the preseason, where you were throwing picks every 2 weeks for touchdowns. Please don't do that. Do me a favor. Do not give the New England Patriots, especially Patrick Chung and that secondary, a reason to take you down. Please. Do your job. Get the ball to Father Time Larry Fitzgerald. And I know that sounds a little insulting saying that, but you know what?
He's had 12 years in the league now, and he's going into his 13th. The guy can still play.
He can. It doesn't Father Time or not. That guy can still outrun the 20-year-olds that are coming up. Now let's go to the next game here. We got the Monday night doubleheader. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Washington Redskins, and folks, they don't play that often. The last time was 2008 on Monday Night Football, and the Steelers won 23-6.
Yep.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, this is a statement year for both teams because, for one, the Redskins won a division title with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, and that really should say something about how wide open the NFC East is this season.
You like that?
Yeah, Mr. You like that. But Cousins played well for them last year. I mean, he really grew by leaps and bounds as a player. At the same time, there's still the matter of who he gets to work with offensively. He's got a really solid group of running backs and receivers and a decent tight end to throw to. Well, defensively is going to be a real question this year. Plus, can Kirk Cousins actually match what he did last year? Because last year was like a career year for him.
I think, you know what? I love the addition of Josh Doxson from TCU. If he's even playing this week, let's hope that he is.
And Josh Norman, who I mentioned before, signed that big contract with the Redskins, so he's going to be anchoring that secondary right now.
On top of all that, you still got Peter Waiter, a.k.a. Pierre Garçon. Sorry, I know that's what it translates to in French. On top of all that, you have D-Jax, Deshaun Jackson, and Matt Jones, who they're lucky to get back because they were really thin at running back going into this regular season game. Matt Jones, of course, from my beloved Florida Gators. This year, the NFC East, like the AFC South, honestly, they're both wide open divisions. Yeah. So any team can actually win those respective divisions. I think the Redskins will make it interesting to say the least. But again, the matchup to look for, you got Josh Norman, cornerback for the Redskins, against the best receiver in the game, number one on every fantasy draft board, Antonio Brown, who tied for the league lead last year with 136 receptions. He's got exceptional footwork. He's great in open space, can get down the field, and can do some amazing things with crossing routes. This guy is out of this world good. The future of the game, to be honest. The biggest weapon in Roethlisberger's arsenal, and unfortunately not having the idiot Martavis Bryant, who's suspended for the whole year, and not having Le'Veon Bell suspended yet again for the first 3 games. I still am going with the Steelers to win this. There's no way I can pick the Redskins. Now the next game, and who would have thought I'd be picking this game to talk about next? Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Green Bay Packers.
Well, I think this time there will not be any problem selling out the game because there's going to be a whole bunch of cheeseheads in northern Florida. So you won't have to worry about a blackout down there. That's one thing. Another thing is the Packers have a lot of pressure on themselves this year. They're really being expected out of their fan base to win it all this season. But even though Aaron Rodgers is still steady for them at quarterback and they have a lot going for them at receiver and on the line, there's still the matter of that one X factor, which I just cannot seem to find that they might be looking for right now.
You know what's great about this year for the Packers? The return of Jordy Nelson. Absent all of last year with that ACL injury before the 2015 season began. But in 2014, this team was one of the top 5 offenses in the league. Without him, they really fell to 15th. So that is saying a lot, how impactful he is for this offense. And that will play a factor against this revamped Jaguars team that nobody wants to talk about. Honestly, if you think about it, Blake Bortles had a career season. He was number 5 in the league in passing yards. He had over 4,400 passing yards with 35 touchdowns on the league. Yes, unfortunately, he led the league with 18 picks on the season, but he had 2 1,000-yard receivers in Allen Hurns and Allen Robinson. And then you add a little bit of Marquise Lee to the mix. You got some Mercedes Lewis, then Chris Ivory adding the backfield with T.J. Yeldon, and the defense getting Malik Jackson. This is the Jacksonville This is Seahawks East Coast.
Yeah, when you think about it, putting Ivory in that backfield is really going to take a lot of pressure off of Bortles. You figure that they're going to give him the ball a little bit more, plus they're going to be cutting down on the turnovers that the Jags committed offensively. At the same time, people are not talking about the Jaguars because they're assuming that these are the same old Jaguars.
No, I'm going with the Jaguars.
I'm not so sure that the same old Jaguars this time because, for one, their quarterback still has some room to grow, and I think he's got a lot of potential. 2, they got better at running back. 3, their receivers are very, very good. It's just a matter of what they can do defensively because defensively they really left a lot to be desired last year, and they were able to make a couple of big acquisitions. Well, Malik Jackson being one of them.
At the end of the day, it's going to come down to Eddie Lacy running the ball against that revamped Jacksonville defense. That will be the matchup to look for. I'm still going with the Jags to take this and win at home. Next matchup here in the Big Easy, the New Orleans Saints taking on the Oakland Raiders. And let me tell you, folks, after that big contract extension that Breeze just got, he's going to have a little pep in his step for sure.
Yeah.
But you got a Raiders squad that also, to me, is a sleeper team, like the Jaguars. The way they almost outspent the Jaguars in terms of free agents. Getting Bruce Irvin in their linebacking core to go with Khalil Mack, who's honestly been one of the great pass rushers in the league since he came in 2014 out of Buffalo. And then you look at some of the offensive weapons. Michael Crabtree, his career is back. First 1,000-yard receiver Oakland's had in over a decade. To match with, of course, Amari Cooper, a good downfield threat weapon for Derek Carr.
They seem to be the trendy pick for certain experts to do something big this year, but I just don't see it. I'm still not impressed with Derek Carr. I think he's complete fool's gold, to be honest with you.
And that's where I disagree with you.
Granted, he's got some really good guys to work with, like Crabtree and like Amari Cooper, two guys who could make any quarterback look good when you think about it.
Who would you pick, though, if you had to pick between these two?
I think the team that comes up with the best play at quarterback in this one winds up winning this game, and I'll tell you right now, I'll pick Drew Brees over Derek Carr any day of the week.
He just picked the Saints, folks. Now, the next game right here, the Purple People Eaters. I know they haven't been called that since the 1970s. The Purple People Eaters, the Minnesota Vikings, heading to Nashville to make music out of the Tennessee Titans.
I think those Vikings fans might be wanting to eat some crow after boasting that that their team was going to be a Super Bowl contender, because now they've gone from having Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback to the combination of Sam Bradford and Sean Hill,
who's actually was announced as the starter. At first, Mike Zimmer was being glib about it and wasn't even going to announce it until Sunday. He just announced it today, 2 days before kickoff. Mm-hmm. So now we know in Music City, we got Sean Hill, who's going to be suiting up as the number one QB to start against the Tennessee Titans. This Titans team also got Mike Mularkey, their new head coach. Well, actually now made the permanent head coach because he was the interim head coach last year. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing Mularkey about him. I love saying that, by the way. There's nothing Mularkey about this guy, especially this team. Why do I say that? They just acquired a good piece to their running back core. DeMarco Murray on his third team in 3 seasons.
Yeah, DeMarco Murray, what was a complete fish out of water playing in Philadelphia last year. He had no business even suiting up for them simply because of the fact that he was a lost cause offensively. When he was used, he looked lost out there. But now that he's in the backfield with the Titans, he's going to be teaming up with a really promising rookie, Derrick Henry, who won the Heisman Trophy last year. But let's see if Derrick Henry doesn't turn into another Trent Richardson and becomes a better player than people are going to think of him. Now, with Marcus Mariota and those two in the same backfield, who's going to be in the slot for the Titans?
Well, you got a bunch of underrated receivers for sure. But at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to the backfield.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with, of course, the Tennessee Titans to take this game and beat the Vikings. Now let's go into the next game right here. We got the San Diego Chargers, Kansas City Chiefs, an all-out AFC West battle royale.
Yeah, the Chiefs have gone. The Chiefs, another team to possibly look at as a potential contender this year, especially after they pulled a surprise and went to the second round of the NFL playoffs last year. It was a really good run that the Chiefs had this season. This year, everybody's going to be looking for more from them, and they wound up strengthening the quarterback position because not only is Alex Smith going to be back, but they wound up getting a really good backup for him in Nick Foles. So when you think about it, they're going to be in really decent hands quarterback-wise. And, of course, there's also the backfield with Jamal Charles,
who's not playing this week.
Yeah.
He's doubtful to play this week, so it's going to be a combination of Charkandrick West, maybe a little Niles Davis, who's mostly going to be on punt returns. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs won both games last year, including that 10-3 scoring in a downpour weather. I'm still going with the Chiefs to beat Philip Rivers.
And the Chargers had so many distractions going for them. There was the issue of the stadium. There was the issue of Joey Bosa holding out for a contract, which I thought was undeserving considering that he just got here.
He's not even playing week 1. That's the crazy thing. He's not even playing week 1 anyway. He held out for 31 days. He finally got a contract, but he was pretty selfish in that regard. But this is a San Diego Chargers team that has done that in the past. Let's hope, though, that they will get their stadium issues figured out.
Yeah, they have one whole year to try and figure this out because that's how long their lease over at Qualcomm Stadium is going to be. It's going to be for the entire season.
And now the longest distance road trip ever. The Miami Dolphins going from South Florida to the Pacific Northwest to face the Seattle Seahawks.
Dolphins have a lot working for them this year. They have a new head coach,
Adam Gase.
They also wound up getting a little bit of an upgrade in the backfield as well. But there's still the issue of the quarterback. Ryan Tannehill has been a complete and utter disappointment for them. Is this guy ever going to try and prove his worth in this game? Or is he just going to be another mistake that the Dolphins made on draft day?
I don't think it's going to be a mistake. You got Adam Gase for a reason. He's a quarterback's coach. He did wonders with Phil Rivers when he was in San Diego. Did a great job last year with Jay Cutler in Chicago, a guy who's prone for turnovers. Mm-hmm. He's going to do the same thing with Ryan Tannehill. In fact, the Dolphins are one of my wild card team picks. I don't think they're going to win the division, but they're going to do big things this year, get to their first playoffs since 2008, but they're not going to win going on the road like this to Seattle in one of the toughest environments to play in against Russell Wilson and that Legion of Boom cover 3 defense. There's no way the Dolphins win this game. I'm going with the Seahawks. But the Dolphins, I promise you, watch out for them this year. Now they got the next game, a battle of the NFC South. We got Buccaneers, Falcons at the Georgia Dome.
Statement year for the Falcons. They're going to be opening their brand new arena, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, soon. So they're going to want to send off the Georgia Dome on a winning note. And when you think about it, after the year they had last year, which was, well, let's face it.
6-10.
Yeah, they were exactly what they were, the Falcons were last year. They're primed to have a big season, especially at quarterback. Matt Ryan's been having a reputation where he cannot win the big game. Well, what bigger game than against your division rivals, the Buccaneers, a team that has a quarterback who's only got nowhere to go but up, a good group of receivers to work with, and I think that they're going to be a lot better defensively than people give them credit for.
My money is on actually the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game. Doug Martin is going to have a big game on the ground against that questionable front seven for the Atlanta Falcons, despite the fact that you got Dan Quinn, a former Seahawks coordinator, as their head coach. Mm-hmm. I see the Falcons getting made embarrassed by Doug Martin and Jameis and Mike Evans, who is an underrated receiver. Is going to have a big season for them. Now, the next game right here, Brock Osweiler leading his Texans at home against the Chicago Bears. The Bears are not going to win on the road with Jay Cutler as their quarterback this year. This is going to be his last season, I assure you of that. And this is going to be the year where the Bears are going to be looking to the college ranks for a guy named Deshaun Watson or Deshaun Kaiser.
Well, you saying that the Bears are not going to win on the road? The Bears are not going to win, period. This team is dreadful. They're dreadful at quarterback. They've got nothing defensively. Quite frankly, I don't see them winning any more than 4 or 5 games this year. It's going to be another lost season in Chicago. Oh, did I mention that Jay Cutler is complete garbage?
Oh, yeah. You've said that so many times, and now that defense is a turnaround. Kevin White has yet to play a single snap in their offense, so it's going to be terrible. Now you got the Colts, Lions. This game right here, to me, is Colts. Andrew Luck, though, even though his offensive line is a revolving door like a slot machine, still, I trust him a lot more this year in this particular game than Matthew Stafford and his band of receivers.
That offensive line is as bad as people think it is, then Andrew Luck is going to be running for his life quite a bit, and they can't have him do that. He's got to sit back in the pocket somehow and try to look for receivers. This is where they need to reconstruct their offensive line. As far as what happens here, you've got 2 teams that are really, really good at quarterback, although I think Luck is a hell of a lot better than Matthew Stafford, which is saying a lot considering that Stafford's a veteran. But this is the first year without Calvin Johnson. So who's going to be the guy that Matthew Stafford is going to be throwing to this year? It's going to be Golden Tate, which is not saying much considering that Golden Tate has had a rather quiet time since he got over there from Seattle. But when you think about it, the Colts have a lot going for them this year. Luck is healthy. They've gotten a little bit more at running back. I mean, granted, they still have Frank Gore, who's a little bit long in the tooth. But at the same time, a really good core of receivers to work with, specifically one T.Y. Hilton.
And Dante Moncrief and all those players. But at the end of the day, I still think the Colts are going to win this game, and it will be because the defense will take Matthew Stafford to task and will be able to stuff that garbage excuse of a run game that the Lions have. Now, the Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens. This should be an interesting game. I am going with Joe Flacco in the Ravens to take out the Bills in that depleted defense, especially Marcel Darius, who's suspended for the first 4 games on the road. And Tyrod Taylor is going to have a tough time throwing the ball. And the next game right here, you got the Cleveland Browns visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. You got the 25th quarterback in that graveyard since 1999 in RG3, while the Eagles are going to be starting the North Dakota State man, Carson Wentz. First game ever in his career. This should be interesting. If I had to pick who's going to what this game will come down to, the running game of the Eagles versus basically running over one of the worst running defenses in the league in the Browns.
Look out for the Eagles, not just this year, but in the next 2 years. Carson Wentz is going to be a good quarterback, I guarantee you. I've seen this kid play. Not only is he a big, powerful kid, he's also a very tough kid. He won a national championship basically with a broken clavicle one year for North Dakota State. And he's also a very smart quarterback. As for the Browns, what can Robert Griffin III do to try and turn things around in Cleveland? Why is he any different from any of the other 24 quarterbacks that they had the previous 17 years? I really couldn't tell you.
And the amount of offensive coordinators that they've had to go through and defensive coordinators, that's what kills so many teams, is the lack of consistency in personnel staff.
And both teams have new head coaches. Hugh Jackson for Cleveland, Doug Peterson, a former quarterback.
Backed up Donovan McNabb.
Mm-hmm. With the Eagles, and was also a backup of his at Syracuse as well. So he's had a reputation for developing quarterbacks. Let's see what he could do with a kid like Carson Wentz. I think he's going to do really good for himself. A lot better than people think.
And the last game that is going to make me fall asleep, but I will still watch, the second doubleheader Monday Night Football, the L.A. Rams. I know it says St. Louis, but it's really the L.A. Rams taking on the San Francisco 49ers.
Don't kid yourself. This is a big deal for both of these teams because, for one, there's going to be a professional football rivalry in California right now. LA versus San Francisco. And number 2, the 49ers want to prove that they can win games with Blaine Gabbert,
who started the
quarterback.
The last 8 games of the last season. That's when he got started. Over Colin Kaepernick.
The guy who, quite frankly, should be the starting quarterback in this game, but that's strictly a matter of opinion. As for the Rams, their number 1 overall pick, Jared Goff, is now the 3rd-string quarterback, which means they're going to go with somebody else to take the snaps.
Case Keenum.
Case Keenum.
That's why.
That's your answer at quarterback. Case Keenum. You drafted Jared Goff for a reason.
He's not even dressing up, though, in this game. He's not even suiting up.
Oh, wow. This tells me one of 2 things. 1, they don't think he's ready this year. 2, they might have made a mistake in drafting a quarterback.
They could have really went in so many directions, but really the game is going to come down to Carlos Hyde versus Michael Brockers and Aaron Donald. How Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers on that Rams defensive line tries to contain Carlos Hyde. If whoever wins that battle wins the game. And to me, the winner of this game will be, and it's sad to say this, I'm going actually with the Rams win this first game right here. And that's all your Week 1 NFL games coming up. Jamie, how exciting is it? Are you
I can't wait. I mean, I had my college football fill the first full weekend of the season. Now it's time for me to get my NFL fill. I got a little bit of a sip with last night's game. Now I want to see how my Jets and Giants do this year.
I can't wait to see my Florida Gators actually play Kentucky in a great rivalry game. You got a game at Bristol Motor Speedway between Virginia Tech and Tennessee on ABC tomorrow night. A NASCAR stadium, 153,000 capacity.
Yep, and just last weekend, not only did we see Alabama wipe the floor with USC, deep in the heart of Texas, but I saw what was probably one of the best college games that I've seen in a long time. Notre Dame versus Texas.
Oh, that.
It was a classic college football game.
Up until the end.
Up until the end. And quite frankly, Texas really needed this win because they're in their second year with Charlie Strong as the head coach, and he's already getting heat.
What do you expect? This is Texas. If you don't do good after 1 year, you get a lot of heat on you. It's one of the toughest programs to coach at. But to me, not only was that victory great and seeing Taiwan Swoops, how about the other Texas team? The Houston Cougars beating the Oklahoma Sooners.
That was an absolute spectacular win. If this doesn't prove that Houston belongs in the Big 12, I don't know what will. And what about that smash mouth game between LSU and Wisconsin? A field goal deciding it in the last few minutes.
Or how about Auburn, against Clemson? How close that game was.
Auburn versus Clemson was a very, very good game. This weekend's games are going to be equal, if not better, than last weekend's games. I'm curious to see how Tennessee and Vodtech do in Bristol.
I can't wait to see Desmond King, the cornerback for Iowa, how he's going to take on the Iowa State Cyclones in the Cy-Hawk Classic.
Yeah, that's a big deal in the land of corn. And there's also Notre Dame coming off that loss, having their home opener against Nevada.
I know. If they lose to Nevada, forget it.
Yeah.
It could be Bedlam in South Bend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jamie, thank you so much, as always.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you, the audience at home, for watching week 1 of the Blitz Zone. We'll be back next week for more episodes here on CTV. Good night, Staten Island.